There was a moment that happened at the end of this intensive where one of the new members saw the big picture, which is you get out of the grind and the weeds of your business and you can look at it from an owner's perspective. And all of a sudden he saw that he was gonna have an easier time going to 10 or 50 or even $100 million than getting to a 7-figure business.
So the overall philosophy to this is that most entrepreneurs, especially internet-based entrepreneurs, tend to specialize or focus almost tunnel vision on one of these three things. So kind of your classic sales channel focus would be an Amazon seller who's selling private labeled products that somebody else made, and they're obsessed with optimizing for Amazon, ranking for keywords, getting reviews, playing the price war game, doing giveaways, launches, many chat strategies. Like they live and are obsessed with the sales channel. And that person makes a really, really great sales channel manager, but a terrible entrepreneur.
We had a lot of conversations about how Warren Buffett reads 4 hours a day, or how Bill Gates goes for long walks every day, and how the really, really rich entrepreneurs are not in hustle mode all the time. They build structures and they build businesses that run without them.
The magic really exists when we bring everything together, and this is what I call a brand. My kind of 8-figure exit model is to look at it more like how Brian Lee approaches a business. Brian Lee is the founder of The Honest Company, founder of LegalZoom, founder of Art of Sport with Kobe Bryant, founder of Shoe Dazzle, principal investor in Honey, the app, which was just acquired for $4 billion. He's like 52, has $3 or $4 billion companies on his resume. And like, how do you do that? How do you have multiple $billion companies on your resume? How does that exist? And it's because he sits in the, what we call the producer role, where he looks at this and brings in the different pieces.
The 7-figure mindset is one of hustle and grind and doing more and more and more and more. But going beyond that is about ownership and taking a zoom out and looking at the pieces of your business and bringing them together and saying, who's funding it? Where is the distribution? Who's the CEO? Who's this person? And all of a sudden you're done. And that's how you build a really big business. Everything else is just small entrepreneurship.
So he sits in this position of, where's my money coming from? Who's my influencer? Who's my CEO? And all I care about is that we build this. Now, where a lot of our discussions in the workshop come in are around, well, I'm past the startup mode. I have a $4 million business. How do I take this and apply it to something that's already in motion? And in a lot of cases, those entrepreneurs are overly romantic about the equity or the piece that they've built up to this point. So there's like, I don't want to give up a piece of my baby. Really, you don't want to give up a piece of your very low profit, $2 million a year revenue business? The pivot point is to get that person to step out of their business for half a second and to look at it like this. Because the person who already has some momentum in the low 7 figures is usually coming into it obsessing over one of these pieces and then going, I don't want to give up a piece of my baby. But what they're missing is that all of their growth lies in marrying their core skill set to one or both of these other pieces. And that's where partnerships come into place. That's where partnerships with influencers or raising money come into play to be able to scale this sucker very quickly. Our pivot point for actually flushing that out is writing a 2 to 3 page vision for the company, which is, what does the business exist to do? Who is it that you serve? What do you focus on? How do you carry out your systems and processes? And If you have that married with these pieces, you now know where you're going to go and what pieces you need in order to get there. And that becomes the basis of a very compelling presentation to an investor, or a very compelling presentation to a CEO, or a very compelling presentation to a partner, because now you have momentum about what is actually going to be built. As a crash course in kind of the foundation of how we structure all of these businesses. What's coming up for you, if anything, as I'm walking you through this?
Things are a lot easier, like, because I'm not a beginner. I'm already built this thing. I have the cash now. It's like, what do you want to do with your cash?
The entrepreneur who is a solopreneur selling stuff on ClickFunnels and Amazon, 99% of the time is running away from what they don't want, which is, I don't want to work a full-time job, so I will be a glorified homeless person and do whatever it takes to not have to do that. And the whole time to focus on what they don't want to go back to. They don't want to go back to. An owner says, this is the vision of the thing that I want to build, and I'm going to bring in the pieces that are necessary to go build this thing, because I'm not running away from something, I'm running towards building something.
An entrepreneur who has crossed that 7-figure threshold to where $1 million business isn't this big, hairy thing anymore, and yet feels like there's something in them that's called for more. Like they got here and they realized, oh, that's it? It means that you built your business on shaky foundation.
Very different energy, which is why I annoyingly make you guys do things like meditations and not analyzing tactics, because the minute you're doing that, you're doing the small things that an entrepreneur does to stay busy and broke. Whereas an owner and a capitalist just looks at what the resources are that he or she is going to bring together to multiply capital. That's when you win.
When you are comfortable having your foundations shaken, and you know that that's what it's going to take for you to build a new foundation that gets you the business that you actually wanted when you started this thing, that's when you're ready for backroom. The way I've said it to people is, if you feel like you're not ready, it means you're probably a fit. Because most people will either say, oh yeah, I'm doing good, I'm ready. It's usually not that person. It's the person who's like, I thought there was something more when I got to this point. And doing more of what I'm doing now is not going to take me to where I want to go. Something's off. That's when it's time to have the foundation shaken a little bit so that you can see what the roots of this business really look like and then address them. And it happens so fast if you're willing to have that uplift. But when you're willing to do that, it can happen really quickly.
I hope that it will help you to do a better job.